Good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Forecast. We start with a live look at downtown Buffalo, and just as Patrick Hammer promised you, those clouds have really started to dissipate. We are seeing those blue skies, and if you're not quite seeing the blue skies just yet and you're still stuck in those clouds, those clearer skies are headed your way. But it's gorgeous right now in downtown Buffalo. Even when I was on the roof like an hour and a half ago, I could feel that sunshine, and temperatures have responded. But don't take my word for it. I'm just inside in a studio. Patrick Hammer is out in the elements at the Hamburg Bureau. What's it like for you, Patrick?
It is gorgeous. Yeah, it looked so gloomy. When I left the Hamburg office this morning at a little before 3 a.m., it was drizzly and wet and rainy all morning. It's been cloudy and wet. The Bills training camp was like a just steady rain out at practice. But we saw that this system was on the move and clouds would depart and exit stage left, and they've done that. So it is bright and beautiful here. And the good thing is it's comfortable. It's not too hot. It's not too humid. It's just about perfect. And the 18-year-old just woke up. So clearly it's a sign of summer when your kids get up at 12:30. Anyway, Lauren, yeah, let's talk about, I'm going to talk about the forecast coming up. But secondly, you're going to talk about all things water. Water related, the chemical and physical properties of water, how it relates to our atmosphere and to the climate. So that is going to be a very interesting deep dive into H2O. Something we had plenty of coming from the sky over the weekend. We're going to talk about some rainfall totals and areas that of the state that have seen a bounty of rain, and other areas that did use the rain, and it was nice to get it yesterday. All right, let's get to it and talk about, again, what we're expecting today. Here's kind of a look at your weather headlines. First of all, the clearing process has begun, and it looks like it's going to end up being a sunny day. Tomorrow, blue skies return with temperatures a couple of degrees warmer than today. And in the long range, there will be some showers, it appears, to end the work week. So it does not look like a repeat of the torrential rains that we had in spots yesterday, but scattered showers and a few thunderstorms are possible Thursday and Friday. Okay, now this is what I was talking about briefly just a second ago, and that is the disparity in rainfall over the last 30 days across western New York. Areas in brown are areas that on average are running below normal rainfall, below normal, believe it or not. But notice across the immediate southern tier and also across the Niagara frontier, there's been plenty of rain. Got plenty of rain yesterday. It seems like the last 3 or 4 rain events have really focused on Niagara and Orleans County, and thus above normal rain and below normal rain just to the south of the Thruway pretty much is what has been the case. So that kind of remedied itself a little bit yesterday with some of the rainfall that we got. However, that disparity kind of showed up in rainfall totals. Notice how much fell to the north. Burt, 3 1/3 inches of rain fell on Sunday. Niagara Falls, 2.5 inches of rain. Medina, about 2.5 inches of rain. Buffalo got just north of an inch, and so did right here at the studio, the Hamburg studios, 1.06. So you can see the north once again was the big winner with rainfall, and the south towns and areas to the south got less, but still healthy rainfall totals yesterday. With boy, what an afternoon. Lauren was in covering the tornado warning in Niagara County. We had multiple flood warnings. We had a severe thunderstorm warning. So the atmosphere has certainly calmed down for now. And that's why rain chances are pretty much zero today and tomorrow, Wednesday as well. We believe some moisture may sneak into the southern tier Wednesday, but a better chance of rain showers come Thursday and Friday. We'll go with about a 60% chance, and we'll fine tune that number as we get closer. But just plan on that. The next 3 days, though, look lovely, including today. 76 degrees today is what we're thinking, a few degrees warmer than it is right now. Right now we're sitting at about 71. Tomorrow will be 81 with sunshine, and then on Wednesday, the warmest day of the week, We could see a few extra clouds, but temperatures into the low to mid 80s. Average, by the way, is 80 degrees. We've had lots of 80-degree days so far this summer season. We've had only one 90-degree day this entire summer season, and that came, I believe it was the last day of June. Okay, so on the satellite and radar, you can see that the clouds are moving west to east. The back edge of the clouds is now pushing through western New York. There's plenty of rain along the East Coast. That's the rain that was here last night. Lots of flood warnings in and around New York City, and that rain extends all the way up through New England. That system is on the move, so it will be a distant memory for us as we head into, well, the afternoon as those skies, we take a closer view, the skies are clearing, and so is the rain. So after such a gloomy morning, not much hope in salvaging a nice day. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. And Future Look shows that too. Notice we put this in motion, the cloud canopy heading east, clearing skies to the west, and the clouds don't come back. Maybe they do in the form of some valley fog early tomorrow morning, but we have clear skies tonight, a little patchy valley fog, and then tomorrow sunshine with temperatures into the 80 to 82 degree mark. And then as we take you even further into Wednesday, we do have maybe an isolated shower that forms east of Lake Erie, inland, maybe an isolated shower, but it looks pretty much dry for the next 3 days until we get to Thursday and Friday. So high temperatures expected today with sunshine, mid to upper 70s, which is a few degrees below average. I would say 77 is kind of a common number there, 78 in the fall, 73 in Wilson. By the way, Wilson had we have a weather watcher there. 3.5 inches of rain, I believe, fell yesterday there, and I was talking to him. I'm like, your grand total for the last 30 days, it has to be like approaching 10, right? So Niagara Falls, Newfane, Lockport, some areas where we do have climate sites, I would say 6 to 7 inches is kind of a common number, maybe 5 to 7 inches for the month of July and then into early August. So it's really crazy. All right, tomorrow, numbers a little bit warmer with sunshine, temperatures climbing to around the low 80s, 70s still it looks like for the southern tier. So an absolutely beautiful Tuesday. And looking ahead into the end of the week, this weekend, into the first parts of next week, this is a map we've been showing you a lot of this summer because quite often this summer it has been showing above normal temperatures expected for much of the eastern half of the country, including right here in western New York, and that is going to be the case again. But what's interesting is that temperatures will be above normal, but maybe not by much. So if normal's 80, 81's considered above normal. So we might be in that low to mid 80 range. Even though we do cool it down a little bit by Friday, you'll see in the 7-day forecast temperatures back into the 80s this weekend. So that just looks kind of ideal as we inch closer and closer to the Erie County Fair, which is coming up soon in about 10 days or so. Here's your official forecast. Those morning clouds and drizzle giving way to clearing skies. So 76 to 77 degrees. Tonight, clear skies, a waning moon, with the full moon having been a couple of days ago. We'll see more of a kind of a 3/4 moon, if you will, 57. And then tomorrow, sunshine and temperatures climbing right around 80 degrees or so. All right, next 7 days look like this. Not a huge difference between our northern zones and southern zones. We're going to go with a partly cloudy to mostly sunny day today, sunshine tomorrow. Come Wednesday, a few extra clouds, especially for the southern tier, as a little moisture comes up from the south. Thursday, Friday, we're going to watch carefully a front or maybe two fronts that come through and trigger some showers. Probably focused in the afternoon and evenings, as is usually the case. However, not totally sure yet. The flow aloft is very fast, so the timing may change a little bit. Saturday, we'll go with a chance of showers. So Sunday is a question mark. I have a dry forecast now. We have to keep an eye on that. That's a day where showers may need to be added back, because Lauren's forecast last night had rain showers for Sunday And in fact, that may be right. There was maybe a couple runs of the models backed off, and now maybe they're bringing the rain back. We'll see. But anyway, that's for the end of the weekend. As these last weekends of summer are approaching, so we want to salvage every one of them with nice weather if we can. That was not the case, of course, this past weekend, which Saturday was beautiful, as it turned out. But then, of course, we had the storms yesterday. Yeah, Lauren, as you've been noting, you've been here in Western New York for about 6 months now, maybe a little longer, and every severe weather event has come on your shift, and you've been covering very diligently tornado warnings across here. Meanwhile, the rest of us have been kind of going, she's getting all the fun. She's going to talk about the water aspects of our climate coming up next. All right, welcome back, everyone. It is Patrick Hammer and Lauren Maroney talking all things weather, but Lauren is going to talk all things water. Hello, Lauren.
Hello, Patrick. Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to think of like new angles for what to talk about for the weather show. So today I went very broad strokes and quickly realized this was way too broad. I could probably do an entire episode just talking about water. So we're only gonna scratch the surface of the water, if you will. So just rudimentary water, H2O, 2 hydrogen atoms, 1 oxygen. It is a polar molecule, which means that it doesn't quite equally share those electrons. It's covalently bonded, but that oxygen, it's more electronegative, so it pulls those electrons closer to it. So the oxygen atom tends to have more of a negative charge, whereas the hydrogen has more of a positive. That means between water molecules, you have those hydrogen bonds, and that is one of the strongest intermolecular forces that we observe, and that's why water has so many unique properties. It's not the only molecule that will see intermolecular forces of hydrogen bonds, but it does give water quite a bit of unique aspects to it. So water on Earth, believe it or not, this is actually a bar chart, but you're going to understand why it really just looks like it is one color. So 97% of the water on Earth comes from our oceans. That is typically the salt water. When we think of, you know, the Earth is 70% ocean, but 97% of the water that is on Earth. And if you want to simply break it down, I'm going to get more into the nitty-gritties of the numbers, but about 2% frozen and 1% fresh, but that's no fun. So let's get a little bit more specific. So I'm going to back off a little. This brightened portion right here, so that's about 2.4% of our water is frozen. That's in glaciers and ice caps. 0.4% water is groundwater. That's typically fresh water. That's also glowing right here. Now, every percentage after this was too small to actually see. Their little slivers in this bar chart are 10 times the size that they are supposed to be, and they're still really not visible. So 0.02% of that water comes from different surfaces such as rivers, lakes, creeks, streams. That makes up that percentage, and 0.001 is the water in our atmosphere. This number can vary depending on where you are. Obviously, there are some areas that tend to have a lot more moisture in the atmosphere, some that tend to be very dry. Think of a tropical rainforest versus a desert, just to speak on opposite ends of the spectrum. But in general, our atmosphere is going to be holding 0.001% of the water in all of our atmosphere. So, how much water is that? That is far and away the smallest amount of water that we're dealing with when we're talking about all the water on Earth. But if all of the water in our atmosphere were to fall as rain, it would completely cover the Earth in about an inch of water. So yesterday, Buffalo got an inch of rain, a little bit more than an inch, but that's basically like everywhere on Earth getting an inch of rain all at once. So quite a bit of rain, and that is nowhere near close to the amount of water that Earth actually has in its capacity. And what I find very interesting, so, you know, you probably, 4th grade, 5th grade science, you talked about the water cycle where it rains, that water evaporates, it makes the clouds, and then it rains again. So that water keeps getting recycled. And so how often does the amount of water that is in our atmosphere kind of go through that cycle? Typically about 40 cycles per year. So about every 8 to 10 days, the water in our atmosphere is getting recycled. And because my brain works in odd ways, I was like, is that similar to how our blood works? Because our blood is also recycling itself. Our blood marrow is making new blood. So not quite. So we have about 3 full cycles of the blood in our body per year. So that is every 120 days. However, that is just completely changing our blood. Those red blood cells take a little bit longer to change over, but our platelets, which are responsible for clotting, do replace about every 8 to 10 days. So your platelets are just like the water in the atmosphere, if that helps you to think about things. So one of the reasons why the water in the atmosphere is so important, and when it varies depending on location, it can really affect the weather. Number one, when temperatures are higher, that means they can hold more water in the atmosphere. We talk a lot about the dew point here, especially when it comes to summer. When that dew point gets into those upper 60s and 70s, that's when it starts to feel sticky and uncomfortable. But that dew point can never be higher than the actual temperature outside, because the dew point is the temperature that the air outside would have to fall to in order for the air to become completely saturated. So it can't ever be higher than what the air temperature is, but the higher that air temperature is, the more moisture can be in that air, and that makes it feel a lot hotter. But worth noting, the more moisture that is in that air, the harder it is for the temperature to actually change in that air, because like I mentioned before, those hydrogen bonds between water molecules, they take in a lot of energy, so you're not going to see as much temperature changes. It really resists temperature change quite a bit, and that's really going to come into play when I talk about the ocean. But so when we have high humidity, temperatures aren't going to fall as much when we head into the overnight, but it's also not going to rise as easily when we get into the daytime, despite even if we have a lot of sunshine warming us up. Today, that humidity is low, so that sunshine is doing a pretty nice job to warm us up. So where did our water come from? Well, there's no definitive answer because no one was around when Earth formed about 4+ billion years ago, but scientists do have their theories. There are several different theories. No one is 100%, everyone believes it, but one of the more popular theories is that it came from asteroids. So when our solar system was still forming and the planets were starting to orbit around the sun, but those orbits still weren't perfect, a lot of things were colliding with one another, and we had quite a lot of asteroids colliding with planets, specifically those first 4 planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And they do believe that a good amount of our water came from asteroids crashing into Earth, and then we took in that water. Also worth noting, I was curious, why Earth? Why are we the ones who have water when these asteroids were crashing into Mercury and Venus and Mars as well? Well, Mercury and Venus are a little too close to the sun. A lot of that water would evaporate before the planet could form an atmosphere to actually hold that water in. And Mars, a little too far from the sun. It is colder. There is some frozen water, they believe, at the poles, but no liquid water that can really help support life on a planet. So Earth is kind of unique in that aspect. And of course, oceans are 70% of the planet, 97% of the water on Earth, but 70% of our planet. So I talked a little bit about the composition of water and how it has that high specific heat. One aspect of that is what meteorologists call the seasonal lag. So the longest day of the year is typically the summer solstice, usually around June 20th. But you notice our temperatures in the summer don't peak until a month later in July. That's because oceans control so much of our temperatures, but it takes them a while to warm up. It also takes them a while to cool down. Even though the shortest day of the year, typically the winter solstice around December 20th, that is not when our temperatures bottom out, and it's that same thing. And the ocean does quite a lot with respect to temperatures and does a lot in order to curb what could be much more rapid warming of our planet. So the ocean is the greatest sink when it comes to anthropogenic heating, which is man-made heating or heating caused by humans on the planet. It takes in about 90% of the heat that we generate. It also takes in an estimated about 30% of that carbon dioxide. So as a result, if we ever look at anomalistic sea surface temperatures, it's not surprising. This is just a snapshot of this time of year. Majority of the ocean is above average because the ocean takes in all of that heat. Also worth noting, the warmer the oceans are, the less efficient they are at absorbing gases like carbon dioxide, and this heating can cause a whole myriad of issues that are probably a little too much to get into right now, but that's just kind of a brief overview of some aspects of water on our planet. I'm gonna throw it to break right now, but Patrick and I will be back with a little bit more Beyond the Forecast after this.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hey, Lauren, I have a question for you. You were talking about atmospheric moisture and water in the atmosphere. Do you remember, it was, I guess, about 4.5 years ago, there was a massive input of moisture into the atmosphere all at once. Do you remember what that was?
An input of moisture into the atmosphere all at once?
Yes.
I don't know, Patrick. What was it?
It was an eruption.
Ooh.
It was the 2022 Hunga Tonga volcanic eruption, kind of down near Fiji, kind of in the South Pacific. And the eruption was like 5 times that of an atomic bomb. And it was the largest natural explosion ever recorded with modern technology. But the impact was, it was this underground volcano. It thrust all of this water into the atmosphere, and it had major climate influences the subsequent summer and winter, kind of like Krakatoa, kind of like Pinatubo in the Philippines, a generation ago. The summer that followed might have been a little cooler because of all the atmospheric moisture that was thrust up there, probably creating more cloud cover. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't mention it, but one of the other theories as to how Earth got some of its water is that some of that water that was locked in our ground and in the rocks came from volcanic eruptions and eventually became part of our atmosphere as well. So tying it in there, well done, Patrick.
Very, very cool. So whether it came from comets, asteroids, or a volcano, we got a lot of salt water. Anyway,
yes, we do.
We'll be back coming up on Friday with another edition of Beyond the Forecast.